Hi, welcome to the MTI podcast. This is Rob Shaw. I'm the founder of the Mountain Tactical Institute, and today is December 11th, 2024. Um, I received a few questions here just last week about MTI's base fitness programming. And today I want to talk about the basic program design that I deploy to design our base programming, base fitness programming. And we need to take a little bit of a step back. MTI has three general types of programming. Two of them are job or sport determined, and one of them is fitness or fitness attribute determined. So let's talk about those fitness attribute determined ones first. These are programs that I have built online that are designed to improve one or two fitness attributes specifically. For example, specific strength plans to increase your 1.5 mile run time, plans to increase your 6 mile run time. We have a hypertrophy plan to build muscle. So these are what I call fitness attribute plans, and every once in a while, again, an athlete says they want to just improve one type of fitness attribute, and that generally leads me to design one of these plans. The two that are so that the fitness attribute plans have nothing to do with the athlete's job or sport. Any athlete can come in there and do one of those plans. They really have nothing to do with the athlete's job or sport. The two types of programming that do have to do something with the athlete's job or sport. The first one is called base fitness programming, and the second one is what I call event-specific programming. I'm going to talk, base fitness programming real quick is day-to-day programming that is specific to your job or sport. So this is day-to-day programming for military athletes, law enforcement patrol, detective, law enforcement SWAT, wildland fire, high-level multi-sport mountain athletes, fire rescue, firemen. We online have all of our daily streams are base fitness programming. And again, this is day-to-day programming. And we also have several individual plans and packets that kind of fall under this category of base fitness programming, which is job-specific day-to-day programming for the type of athlete you are or the sport you do. The second type of job-specific programming that I design is called what I call event-specific programming. And event-specific programming is programming that is job-specific before a specific event. For example, on the military side, it's our programming, or all of our tactical athletes, the specific programs that I've built for fitness assessments, like the ACFT, the Marine Corps, CFT, the Cooper test for law enforcement, etc. Those are events, and I have specific plans for each of those events. Those events are, again, job specific to those jobs of those athletes. On the mountain side, these are like sport season, preseason plans, and/or specific mountain event plans. For example, our dryland ski training plan is a event-specific plan that I built for mountain athletes who want to get ready for ski season. I've also built plans to get ready for backcountry hunting, the alpine or the backcountry ski season, the rock season preseason training plan, kayak paddling preseason training plan, etc. So these are event-specific plans for upcoming seasons. And then on the mountain side, I also have built several plans for specific mountain events. For example, a plan specifically to climb Denali, a plan specifically to climb Everest, a plan specifically to complete the rim-to-rim Grand Canyon hike. So we have within the mountain world also event-specific plans for specific mountain events. What I want to talk about today mostly, though, is to take a step back and talk about that day-to-day programming, the base fitness programming. One of the questions I get a lot is that if I'm a tactical athlete, for example, I'm in the U.S. Army, I have to take the ACFT, which is their fitness assessment, I think 1 or 2 times a year. Why shouldn't I train for the ACFT all the time? Or from a mountain's perspective, I'm a mountain, I'm a mountain athlete, but my passion is skiing. Why shouldn't I just train for downhill skiing all the time? And there's a few reasons for this. First of all, our sport-specific training plans, or the ones that I've designed event specifics, are very focused and very effective. There's not a lot of variety in them. In the ACFT training plan, for example, there are like 3 or 4 events in the ACFT, and all you do during this training plan is those events, train for those specific events. You're doing a lot of hand release push-ups, a lot of planks, medicine ball throws, 2-mile runs, and trap bar deadlifts. Those are the 5 events in the ACFT, if I remember right. For our dry land ski preseason training plan for skiers, pretty much all you're doing is leg blasters to get ready for the downhill, and touch, jump, touch intervals to get your leg lactate tolerance trained up for the hit that comes to your legs when you're skiing. And pretty much these plans are the same thing, only harder over the weeks that you do them. They're designed to be done right before the seasons. Our goal, or the event, my goal is to through our base fitness programming, create a high level of job or sport specific fitness, base fitness for the athletes, and then directly before the event, have athletes drop out of the base fitness day-to-day programming and do one of our sport-specific or event-specific plans right before the season or the event, and then after the event, drop back into the day-to-day fitness. If you always do the sport-specific programming or the event-specific programming, a few things happen. First of all, you'll quickly plateau. In other words, without some type of variation, you're just going to end up not getting better at whatever those events are. The second thing is it's going to become stale. I mean, believe me, the 6 weeks, whatever, of our dryland ski training plan, I've done that multiple times. You're pretty much, everyone is sick of step up or sick of leg blasters and touch intervals. It's very intense, and at the end of it, you're really fit for skiing, but you don't want to be doing any more of those. 6 weeks is enough. Another issue that comes up is you'll develop strength imbalances. And so, for example, the ski-specific training plan, one thing that we're missing in that plan, we just have time to train it, is lower back extension strength and strength endurance. That's a big part of our base fitness training plan. But if you get away from it too far, it can become a weakness, which could later lead to injury or something else. So there's, and another thing is that with that skis plan, there's not a lot of posterior chain work for your hips and hamstrings. Skiing is primarily quad focused, and so is our plan accordingly. So you'll lose some strength there, and that again could become a liability. And finally, the other elements of your fitness will suffer if you keep on doing the event-specific plan. For example, if you're in the Army and you just did if you only trained for the ACFT all the time, one of the huge fitness demands of military, and the Army specifically, is rucking. Rucking isn't measured or assessed in the ACFT. And so if you only train for the ACFT, you're never going to ruck, and that's going to become a fitness hole for you or a liability when you do have to ruck. So those are some reasons that you don't want to train for your event or your assessment or your sport all year long. Again, it's our goal, or my approach at MTI is to create a high level of job or sport-specific base fitness, which is more well-rounded, and then directly before the event or the season, have you drop out of base fitness into one of our very focused, very effective sport-specific or event-specific training plans into the event or the season. Now back to base fitness. The base fitness programming that I do, again, is captured in the daily streams that we do, the daily monthly streams for military, the operator, which is for our military, the law enforcement patrol, law enforcement SWAT, fire rescue, mountain elite, wildland fire, etc. These are, again, designed as day-to-day fitness programming that is job determined. Each of these programs or this programming methodology works to train multi-modes at the same time. So I'm using the programming to train multiple fitness attributes concurrently. And the fitness attributes that I train in each stream or each base fitness plan are determined by the fitness demands of the job. Now, with the athletes that I work with, mountain and tactical athletes, several of these fitness demands are shared. For example, all of my base fitness programming trains high relative strength. So high relative strength is strength per body weight. None of the athletes that I work with are just strength athletes. In other words, none of them are competing power lifters or competing Olympic lifters or even competing CrossFitters who really need to have high max effort strength. What's most important for my athletes is they have a high relative strength, which is strength per body weight. All of the base fitness programming includes multimodal work capacity events. So work capacity events that are multimodal, two or more different modes. For example, deadlifts to sprints, for example. And these are designed not only to train short, intense work capacity for the athletes, but also to prepare them for instances in the field where they need to move fast, but they can't really predict what type of event that's going to be or what they're going to be moving. For example, if you're a law enforcement officer and your partner gets hit and you need to drag him out or pick him up and carry him, that's a short, intense work capacity event. If you're a fireman in a, fighting a warehouse fire or something, you got to be lower to the ground to protect yourself from the heat, and you end up getting extended on your hose, and you got to move a lot of heavy, full of water hose, crawling on your knees and dragging it. That's a multimodal work capacity event. If you're, let's say you're a wildland firefighter, the fire catches up to you. You and your team need to run to the ridge as fast as possible, carrying all your gear. That's a multimodal work capacity event. So when I'm working or trying to prepare my athletes for with these multimodal work capacity events are, dangerous times when they can't really predict what's going on. I want them to be able to turn it on and go hard. All of the fitness attributes, all of the different base fitness cycles that I train include chassis integrity, and chassis integrity is my proprietary program design for training core strength and functional core strength. And I don't need to go into that now, but a lot of sandbag work, a lot of core work that's done on your feet, looking at flexion, extension, rotation, isometric carries and holds. So lots of work like that. It's fairly unique, and chassis integrity is a huge part of MTI training, and I'm not too sure that anybody trains the midsection like we do. We really hammer it. I've just found over the years anecdotally hearing back from athletes that a strong midsection in a functional sense has really impacted their on the mountain or out in the field performance in a positive way. Finally, every base fitness program that I design has some level of endurance. Depends on the athlete's job or type of athlete they are, but they all have some type of endurance that's designed. There are some differences in the jobs and the base fitness design cycles that I do. For example, tactical athletes, military, law enforcement, and wildland firefighters also have a minor component which is called tactical agility, and that's where we'll actually do loaded, tactically specific agility drills to prepare those athletes to move fast and in a way they need to train for obstacles that they may encounter on the job. On the mountain side, there's an optional in our mountain daily stream, Mountain Elite daily stream. Once a week is an optional training session just for climbing fitness, specifically rock climbing fitness. So many of the multi-sport mountain athletes that I have worked with over the years have always dabbled in rock climbing, in the fall or in the spring, and it's a way to keep that component of their fitness trained, both fitness-wise and technique-wise. So we include that option, which is not included for the tactical athletes, obviously. Some other differences between the different athletes I work for in the base fitness program design is work capacity program design. The tactical athletes, specifically military and law enforcement, the work capacity events that I design have an emphasis on shuttle sprint repeats, which is designed to prepare them specifically for movement under fire. So they do a lot of sprints, a lot of shuttle sprints, and it's just designed specifically to prepare them to be able to move fast under fire. The military, wildland firefighters, and to a lesser extent, law enforcement on the SWAT teams also have an endurance mode for rucking. And so, they'll do running, and they'll also do quite a bit of rucking in their program design. And then for the mountain and wildland firefighters, they have a significant job-specific or sport-specific fitness demand for uphill movement under load. So one of the endurance modes that they get trained a lot in those base fitness programs are uphill movement under load, which primarily means step-ups, which are drudgery but are very effective at training endurance for moving uphill, carrying a pack. So while many of the base fitness programs that I designed for the different athlete types share attributes, there also are some significant distinctions, and all of those are accounted for as I design these programs. In terms of the training attributes that I designed for base fitness, again, my focus and MTI's focus is not on gym numbers, but on outside performance. So I'm looking for fitness programming that directly transfers to performance in the field. And that is the primary tool that I use to determine whether or not I include an exercise, a programming mode, an event design, everything. Will it transfer to the field? The other thing I consider is exercise complexity. Again, gym numbers and for MTI don't matter. All that matters is outside performance. So as a result, I've learned to avoid some of the more difficult, technically specific exercises, such as snatches. We don't do a lot of snatches. I've just found over the years that many male athletes simply have shoulder mobility issues with snatching. And like 50% of the male athletes I've ever worked with. including myself these days at 56. So if you have half your male athletes you're working with can't get their shoulder, don't have the shoulder mobility required to do a proper snatch, you probably shouldn't be including snatching in your programming. Snatches are a great total body exercise, lots of carryover, but again, there's other ways that I can hit that, train that fitness demand and use a more simple exercise. Specialized equipment. About the only specialized equipment that we use with MTI programming are sandbags, and not every functional fitness gym and few commercial 24-hour fitness gyms include sandbags, but they're a huge part of our programming specifically for chassis integrity. And I've never found a piece of equipment that transfers to training functional core strength like sandbag training. And so we include those, and we make our own sandbags. We sell them. They're pretty cheap. And for athletes who don't have a sandbag in the gym, I tell them to make their own and take it to the gym with them. So sandbags is it. Everything else is pretty standard in a functional fitness gym. Barbells, kettlebells, indoor dumbbells, plyo boxes, and racks. And you're about set to do most of MTI's programming. Finally, another thing that I consider in designing our base fitness programming is what I call the burden of constant fitness. And so for the mountain professionals and the tactical athletes that I work with, they can never afford to be out of shape, which means they have to be training all the time. And this can lead to a burden of constant fitness. In other words, it can just get stale having to train all the time. And so I think about this and I manipulate the base fitness program design to add variety so that it avoids the idea of stillness. For example, I've developed over the years, I think 9 or 10 different strength progressions right now. Again, because gym numbers don't matter a lot, I can deploy lots of different methodologies for training strength, still improve or build relative strength, the strength per body weight, but give the athlete some variety on how the strength programming is delivered. And that just keeps the athlete engaged in the training, keeps them interested. Work capacity, event design, I manipulate the formats, the durations that I program work capacity, again, for the same reason. I can still achieve the programming goal, but adding a little variety just makes it not so stale for the athletes. And the same is true with our chassis integrity programs. We can put in different exercises. Specifically, we just introduced some carries, which will add some variety. Again, what is most important is outside performance. So variety, if adding variety negatively impacts outside performance, I won't do it. But if I can do it without hurting outside performance, I will add variety, because most of the athletes I work with are professional athletes, and training can get stale when you have to be fit all the time. Another thing I'm concerned about is the intensity of the daily programming. And what I mean by that is by far the most effective program design that I've ever encountered or built myself is assessed and progressed program design. So we'll do some type of initial assessment. We'll progress the athlete based on his or her individual assessment results throughout the program, and then reassess at the end. It's a really focused way to make sure that you're building fitness. I can do this for strength. For example, do a 1 rep max back squat at the beginning of the plan, reassess it in the middle of the plan, do it at the end again, and all along have the athlete doing back squats. I can do it with work capacity events where we'll do, for example, 300-meter shuttles once a week, every week on an interval, and decrease the time of the interval. So over the course of the programming, ideally the athlete is getting more fit, but a 300-meter shuttle on a clock is an intense effort, mentally intense, physically and mentally. Just like, doing percentage-based back squats based on your 1 rep max. I mean, it takes a lot of effort physically and mentally to do those sets and reps. And so I'm conscious as I design these programs of how many assessments I put in each program, and try to limit it to no more than 2 assessments per daily stream or base fitness program, and keep the intensity at a manageable level for the athletes. With the work capacity efforts, I've also introduced these past few years grinds. So you'll do a 20-minute grind, which I want you working steadily, not frantically, for 20 minutes instead of doing an AMRAP, as many rounds as possible. I think that for, again, professional athletes with burner constant fitness, come into the gym, training hard, but not being pushed the whole time, is just can give you a mental break. And I think it's important that I program so that you're still getting good training in there, but I don't got to be on your ass the whole time pushing you. So every once in a while, I need to be on your ass with an assessment or a progressed work capacity event or something, or, an assessed endurance event. A lot of our programming on the endurance, I'll do like an assessed 3-mile run in hard 1-mile intervals, as you work through the program. That's just very intense. And so I try to manage that as I work through and build these programs, and not do too much of that so that it gets too intense for the athlete. Another thing I'm always working on is, keeping the exercise simple, trying to use common exercises, and also trying to keep the sessions as efficient as possible. We're known for our efficient programming, and, we get a lot of work done in 45 minutes or an hour. And rarely do I extend for our base fitness programming sessions beyond 60 minutes. When that does occur, it's to build endurance in base fitness programming, and sometimes you just got to go 75 or 90 minutes or even 120 minutes for endurance. This also applies to the days of week. By far, most of our base fitness programming is 4 or 5 days a week. I don't want my tactical or professional tactical or mountain athletes training on the weekend if they can help it. But every once in a while, I'll need to put in a Saturday endurance session just to meet the outside fitness demands for the job. So those are other things that I consider. In terms of the base fitness cycles, I have 2 basic cycles. A balanced cycle, where all the fitness attributes are trained in a relatively equal amount over the course of that cycle. And then a cyclic emphasis cycle, or a cycle with specific attribute emphasis. So everything will still be trained, but 1 or 2 fitness attributes will have a little bit of emphasis in that cycle. And what I mean by training the elements or the attributes in a balanced way or with a little bit of emphasis, I'm talking about training time. How much time during the cycle is the attribute trained? So in a balanced cycle, all the different fitness attributes are trained in a relatively equal amount. In a cyclic is a cycle, a base fitness cycle with some emphasis. 1 or 2 of the fitness attributes get a little bit more time than the others. Every other cycle in the daily stream programming is a balanced cycle. And what I mean by that is, so it'll be a balanced cycle followed by a cycle with cycle emphasis, followed by a balanced cycle. I like to return to doing the balanced cycles every other cycle to make sure that all the fitness attributes are not regressing. For example, if I was to train strength emphasis 3 months in a row in the daily operator sessions for military, at the expense of endurance, on that 4th month, their endurance would have gone to shit. And they might need their endurance if they get deployed quick or, have something come up at the command or whatever. So I can never get too far away from training one of the fitness attributes because of this concern. Again, All the athletes I work with are multimodal athletes. Their jobs have multimodal fitness demands, and I need to make sure that all of them are getting the right attention. And over the course of time, my goal is to slowly build the base fitness of the athletes, and once they get to a high level, to maintain it. This will have them relatively highly prepared for anything that gets thrown at them in the job. And it'll also have them prepared for sport-specific program or event-specific programming that'll have them do before an event. So, for example, the program that we have to train for Green Beret selection is an 8-week selection program. Ideally, a military athlete or a guy in the Army who's been doing MTI's daily operator stream will be able to start that program for ruck base or for Green Beret selection 8 weeks before the selection and be able to manage the fitness demands of the selection plan. Our Green Beret selection program is very intense. I think there's a 12-mile ruck week 1. It's very intense programming, and you have to have a high level of base fitness just to start it. And it starts hard and it gets harder as you work through the program. So the last week is a taper, but I think week 6 is a very intense week. And it's very intense in load, in volume, in training time. And you couldn't do it again and again. You quickly overtrain. But if you come into it with a high level of base fitness, it's ideally a peak program, and I'll send you into Green Beret selection, event specifically fit for the specific fitness demand you'll face at selection, but also durable and ready to go. So that's my goal. And so just to review here in terms of the base fitness daily streams, what I try to do is every other month is a balanced cycle where I'm trying to train the individual fitness attributes in relatively equal amounts. And then sandwiched between the balance cycles are cycles with a little bit of emphasis. For example, it'll be a balance cycle, then the next month we'll have a slight strength emphasis. And then a balance cycle, and the next month we'll have a slight work capacity and chassis integrity emphasis. A balance cycle, and then the next cycle will have a slight endurance emphasis. And then followed by a balance cycle, and then back to cycle, slight strength emphasis. So this is the way that I try to, again, raise all these fitness attributes within the athlete slowly over time and maintain them once they get to a certain level. So by far, the base fitness programming that I do at MTI is by far more complicated and complex than our event-specific programming. You may think that designing a plan for Delta selection would be more complicated than designing a day-to-day plan for Delta operators, but it's not. The day-to-day plan is much more complicated and sophisticated. So that's it for this podcast. I hope I didn't confuse the hell of you. And if you're a nerdy meathead like I am, I hope I intrigued you with some insight into the program design I do here at MTI. If you have any questions, please email me, rob@mtntactical.com. I actually got a suggestion to cover this topic in the podcast, which is why I did it. So if you have any podcast suggestions, please send me an email. Also, I'd really like to interview some of our professional athletes out there on the tactical or mountainside as part of our podcast. If you're interested in being on the podcast, even if you just want to, talk with me about the things that we're doing here on the fitness side or some of our current events issues on the RET, let me know. I'm always looking for people to pitch in. And you can send me an email, just rob@mtntactical.com. And that's it for this week. Have a great week.